Hi there, everyone. This is Dan Dix here. Welcome back to Press for Truth. I'm your host, and we're here now with the one and only Doug Casey. He's a world-renowned anarchist, a speaker, general, all-around troublemaker, really. Doug, thank you so much for taking some time to speak with us today.
Well, pleasure, Dan. Thank you.
Now, I wanted to get your thoughts a little bit, first of all, on there's a lot of talk right now about this coming crash of the dollar, and some people are suggesting that it might come as soon as this fall. What are your thoughts on the idea of the dollar crashing as soon as the end of this year?
It's credible to me, and the reason is, from my point of view, is fundamental. I mean, there are, nobody knows for sure, but perhaps at this point 10 trillion US dollars that are outside the borders of the United States. And unlike the dollars within the United States, where Americans have to use them by law to settle accounts, foreigners don't have to hold the dollar. So it's resting on nothing more stable than confidence. And confidence can blow away like a pile of feathers during a hurricane. So I think that the inevitable, and the inevitable, it's been inevitable that there'd be a big problem with the dollar for many years, it's perhaps imminent. And of course, this is compounded by the fact that I believe that as we speak right now, the world's economic situation is in a very similar position, same as it was in 2007. And you know what happened in 2008 and 2009. And what I say is that we entered the leading edge of a hurricane then. And for the last few years, we've been in this gigantic eye of a huge hurricane. And soon, I think we're going to exit the trailing edge of the hurricane, and it's going to be much longer lasting, much different, and much worse than we saw in 2008 and 2009. It's going to be very nasty, I think.
Well, before that time comes, I mean, you often talk about how people can benefit essentially in times of crisis, recognizing these things when they're going to happen before they happen. With the things going on now in the world, in Greece, and maybe some of the things going on with the Chinese markets, do you see any ways for people to be able to invest in some of these other countries that are in the middle of crisis situations?
Yes, I'm a complete believer in crisis investing, as it were, but it seems to me that it's actually too early to invest in Greece. It's too early to invest in China. Why do I say that? Because right now, people are watching it. Everybody's looking. They're still trying to find an opportunity there. The ideal time to get into a crisis is not like now, but it's when everybody is so burned out, they don't even know or care that this is going on. And we're not there at the moment. We may be approaching that stage, however, in the resource market. These little mining stocks here in Vancouver are approaching a bottom. I'm very interested in them in addition. But I've always said, I'll try to buy anything, absolutely anything, if the price is right. So picking a bottom is very hard, but that's ideally what I tried to do.
The price is looking pretty right now for things like silver, gold as well. What are your thoughts about some of those markets potentially being manipulated? Is there any kind of manipulation going on in the gold and silver markets?
Well, I know this is a meme that's been circulating by the Gata group for years. And my answer is that everybody tries to manipulate everything. That's just the nature of the market. I mean, it happens here in Vancouver with these tiny little, not even micro cap, not even nano cap, they're pico cap stocks. So sure, people always try to do this type of thing. But it's a question of what is manipulation? Now, they're saying this is price suppression of gold. And it makes no sense to me that the powers that be, the governments, would try to suppress the price of gold. Why? So that it makes it especially cheap for the Chinese and the Russians to buy more? I mean, if this was true, the traders in New York who gossip to each other like little girls would all be saying, you know, this idiot that's my supervisor has been telling me to be short gold for the last 10 years. These people were saying this back in 2001 when gold was $250 an ounce. They're suppressing it at $250. It goes up to $900. They're still saying, what are they, suppressing it all the way up? So yes, of course, people always try to manipulate things, but to me the gold suppression meme doesn't make any difference. It doesn't make any sense.
In regards to getting away from any types...
In other words, well, great. If they can suppress the price of gold, why don't they suppress the price of important commodities like copper and oil and wheat and corn? Well, they don't. And of course, we've been in a bear market for these things for the last 3 years, but that's after a huge bull market. So this is the market.
What do you think about things that are not tangible whatsoever, like Bitcoin? Is that maybe the answer to get away from any kind of manipulation or government involvement? What are your thoughts in general on Bitcoin?
I'm philosophically very much in support of Bitcoin. And as I understand it, it's a marvelous technology. So the only problem I have with Bitcoin is that its utility, its value, is as a means of transferring funds. But the problem is I like to have something that has utility value in itself. And this is why gold and to a lesser degree silver have always been used as money. So Bitcoin is good. But maybe the next innovation on that blockchain technology is now being done with BitGold, where you perhaps get the best of both worlds. So these things evolve and improve the technology. So yeah, I'm all for Bitcoin and what it represents, which is freedom from, the dollar and central banks and things like that.
Well, let me play a little bit of devil's advocate for just a sec. When it comes to central banks and people like, let's say families like the Rothschilds, who have been for decades, centuries, setting up their central banks all around the world, are people like that just going to allow something like Bitcoin to just come along and swoop everything away? The world wars they've created, the things they've done to create these central banks, are they going to allow something like Bitcoin to just ruin it all for them? Or are they going to maybe coerce it and take it over and try to figure out how to make it work for them? What are your thoughts?
Well, there are all kinds of, the Roman Empire, the Roman emperor did everything he could to keep the Roman Empire from being swept away. But it was. This always happens throughout history. The makers of buggy whips in the 19th century did everything they possibly could, mechanically and legally and to stop buggy whips from becoming an anachronism. So I'm not worried about what the Rockefellers want or don't want. For all I know, maybe they're going to wind up being crucified along a highway for their crimes and misdemeanors in the past. Maybe they'll lose all their money. Maybe they should. I'm not worried about this type of thing. Of course, the old order always fights against new technology and new ideas. So I'm not terribly worried about that, no.
Well, that's great. That's great to see that you understand that these systems do eventually come crashing down, and that's the only inevitable end to this thing, after all. So, once again, thanks for talking to us. Where can people go if they want to learn more from you? Is there a website?
Go to kcresearch.com, and we have a number of free publications people can sign up for, and I think that's a good place to start. And of course, I guess we're on YouTube now, aren't we? So I've got a lot of other things on YouTube.
Okay, great. Well, check the links in the description, guys, to where you can learn more from Doug on YouTube. Check out his website. Once again, thanks for talking to us.
Thanks, Dan.